Welcome back to Casa Refined. I'm Jorge. Today I have quite the special video for you as I'm sharing some vintage inspired DIY projects. I really think you're gonna love these because I really poured my heart and soul into this, because sometimes coming across good vintage decor can be a bit tricky and costly depending on where you source it. And let's be honest, there's something magical about vintage, often rustic decor. It really adds a nice bit of texture to a space that sometimes is needed. And I really think these are going to help do that for my home and hopefully for yours, or at the very least entertain you. So let's get started. I have been dreaming of these vintage or antique columns, pillars, perhaps sculptures if you will. These beauties were often made out of cast iron or wood and were used structurally, but now they could be used decoratively, perhaps used as a pedestal stand to display a sculpture. I love the imperfection, and the patina among these is just remarkable, and it's a relatively simple way to infuse architectural interest to a space, both indoors or outdoors. But to be honest, getting my hands on one of these can be quite costly or challenging, but I do have this. This right here is a column stand, I believe made out of plaster of Paris. I feel like these are used at formal events like weddings, but honestly, I got this at Hobby Lobby for like $18 or something years ago, but I've had it tucked away and never really known what to do with it. But I'm gonna give it a makeover inspired by those old poles and give it the antique bronze effect. And to do that, I'll use the 3-step method by Modern Masters. Nope, this video is not sponsored. However, I did recently use this in my cement sculptural orbs video. I know many of you love that video, and honestly I absolutely love how this stuff can really transform pretty much any object and make it look like oxidized or rusted metal. First up, I applied 2 coats of the specialty primer. Next, I'm applying the oxidizing bronze paint. Of course, stirring very well as I want to ensure that the metal particles are evenly distributed. It's such a beautiful color, don't you think? I won't lie, this stuff can be a little pricey, but I use it a lot, so I buy it in bulk, as you can see by the gallon, and it does save me some money. However, they do sell smaller portions if you want to give it a try. I'll link it in the description in case you want to give it a try, but of course follow the manufacturer's directions. Now I'm applying the second and final coat of the bronze paint, which is time sensitive because soon after I will be applying the green patina rust activator solution. This blue liquid right here is technically an acid. I diluted acid, but of course we want to be careful, wear some PPE. And now I'm gently applying it to the surface of the column. Bronze does patina over time. However, this solution essentially accelerates the process in a couple of minutes. In the end, I applied about 2 coats of this and let it fully dry, which I believe then fully neutralizes. A protective clear coat is optional, especially if used outdoors, as it will continue to develop a patina. However, I will opt out of it and leave it as is. Here's the final result. I absolutely love the green-blue patina of this pillar. What are your thoughts on it? I am so excited for this project as I'm creating a round art sculpture. So I bought this round prefabricated round project panel. I drilled 2 holes on the side for the base, which I will make later on. Then I'm taking a piece of paper to use as a template to create a series of lines, almost like a wheel. Rope and I are like bread and butter in my art projects these days, and of course today I will be cutting a few pieces that I will glue around the wheel. Overall, I want this art sculpture to be quite minimalist. I don't want this to be so busy and over the top, and I think this ribbed effect is going to work really well for me. Once I glue that on, I'm taking some caulking to fill in some of the gaps. I want to make this look monolithic, like it was a carved piece almost, not something that I glued on. So the little details really matter in this case. think one coat of an acrylic based primer will suffice in covering this all up. And then once that dries, it's time to work with my good friend over here, Henry's Feather Finish. This stuff is like a cement skim coat patcher. I add a little bit of water to give it almost like a really thick paste consistency that I can just brush right on to the entire surface of the thing. By the way, this is two-sided, so I'm also doing the other side. Wow, it's coming along nicely. I added another coat of cement, and once that dries, it's time to add our paint solution. In this case, I'm working with acrylic paints that I'm watering down. The reason I water it down is because the cement will help absorb it better this way, almost like a stain, if you will. I want the texture to do most of the talking, so overall I'm maintaining a neutral color palette. I begin with a cream color. Next, using some fabric, I layer on some taupe colors, some grays, some browns, finishing it off with that cream color again. I love how this emphasizes that texture and highlights the ribbed effect, which enhances the sculptural quality of the piece. But I'm not done quite yet, as I still need to make a base. I'm taking some wood, gluing it together, drilling some holes, and I'll use some wooden dowels to prop up the wheel. Next, I will insert it into the wheel and glue it all together. I'm going to add some of Henry's Feather Finish to the base. I think this will enhance the look, plus it will give it a more monolithic look, which I am going for. Sometimes it's all about the details. It truly does matter, and I think this base could further be enhanced by adding the rusted iron effect. Very similar as the first DIY, I'm applying a 3-step process, starting off with some primer, followed by the liquid iron, and then some rust activating solution. Things don't always go to plan, and one of the beauties of creating is experimenting, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And in this case, I wanted to experiment with the idea of adding something to the center of the wheel. So I cut 2 circles of plywood, then in the center I glued these concrete dots, as I like to call. I think this is going to serve as the focal point for the piece. So I'm also adding that 3-step process and giving it that rusted iron effect while I'm at it. It's time to apply the instant rust solution after the liquid iron coat. The consistency is thicker, almost like gel, but it works just the same. I think it helps prevent some splatter. We just have to wait a couple of hours and it will fully do its magic. I let that dry, or I guess technically undergo the chemical reaction, and it rusted so nicely. I glued that center detail to the wheel, and overall I'm pretty happy with it, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I think it might look better without it. I'm gonna include 2 options here. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think it looks better with or without that center rust detail? Also, you'll notice I paired it with a larger wooden wheel. I created that off camera and it's inspired by a project I did a couple years ago. I think these look so beautiful, and guess what? These are available for purchase. I made a couple more and I will link them in the description. Let me know your thoughts. I'm always looking for creative ways to hide my crap, and I think this next project will be perfect to do so. Essentially, I'm creating a small wall cabinet using some artwork. Honestly, this is quite simple to make, as I'm just making a simple wooden frame. There are several ways to make a simple wooden frame. In fact, there are some great tutorials out there that show how to make one without power tools, but I'm opting for a mitered corners. I'm gluing it together and further securing it with my brad nailer. This will be the door of our cabinet. It is a vintage wooden frame with a Bauhaus print that I printed off of Etsy. And this is the hinge I am using. It's a long one, but it's also economical. It's quite simple to install. Just screw onto the frame and to the door. But before I do, I might as well paint the frame the same color as the walls. I think it will just help blend in a little bit more, especially if we see this from a side profile. While we wait for that to dry, I have a bit of a surprise for you. So my dad, he's very creative. He's always making these beautiful things. Well, he recently made these apple wood risers, live edge risers. They're so beautiful, they're sculptural, and they're unique. Well, I shared them in a recent video and they sold out rather quickly, so I am excited to announce that he made another batch. So a couple small, some medium, and large. And let me tell you, the large is larger this time. These are so beautiful. Definitely get your hands on one of these if you're looking to add a bit of sculpture and a handmade touch to your space. These risers are very versatile and handmade with love from our Casa to yours. Available now on casarefineshop.com. I will link them in the description. My dad will be so excited to see these in your home. Now I can screw in the hinge, making sure that the art frame is nice and centered. But how will we mount this to the wall? Well, I'm taking some of these, I guess, corner brackets. I think that's what they're called. I already had them and I just spray paint them to match the color of the wall. Of course, I'll add a magnetic hatch to secure the door. And now I can securely screw this onto my walls. And here is the final result for my little cabinet. Now I'm actually using this in an upcoming makeover, but for demonstration purposes, I mounted it here so you can see the final result. I'm very happy with it and it's a great way to stay organized and keep things hidden away. Let me know your thoughts. Here is a beautiful wooden board that I thrifted recently. It's intended for decor use only, so I'm going to keep it that way, but the color is just not it. So I'm going to use the old oven cleaner technique, which, full disclosure, I am not recommending this, but I am going to use it to quickly remove the existing, I guess, finish or varnish of this piece. I'm spraying the entire surface and letting it do its thing before coming back to scrub it off. After a few minutes, this is ready to be washed off, so I'm taking some warm water, some liquid dish detergent, and a scrub, or brush rather, to brush it all off. This removes that sort of varnish, some of the stain, and I believe this also helps neutralize the oven cleaner. Okay, so the board is now dry, but as you can see, it only removes some of the finish off. However, I am out of oven cleaner, so I'm going to have to run to the store and get some more. And then repeat the process once more, maybe twice, depending on how it turns out. But some of the natural wood is starting to peek through, which I think is going to look a lot better than this existing orange finish. After some light sanding, I was able to successfully remove any remaining varnish or finish. Now I am ready to make this look more distressed and antique. So I'm taking a flathead screwdriver and now I am marking the wooden board. Honestly, just scratching it in the direction of the wooden grain. And I think this helps to mimic the look of wood as it starts to age and dry and overall feel distressed. Some quick sanding will help remove some loose splinters. Now I can add my stain. This is the Rustic Wood Effects by Bear. Not sponsored. I do love this stuff. It's a water-based stain and it gives the look of rustic wood. It's perfect. You can add as little or as much as you want, but the more you add, the darker it will be. My goal is for this to be a medium wood color, so I'm applying it with a brush and quickly removing excess with a little rag. The board is now dried and I think the color treatment looks fantastic. It is nice and rustic looking, so at this point I did a little bit of a light sanding just to knock off some of the splinters. Now I'm gonna top it off with some water-based polyurethane and a matte sheen. I think it's just gonna look a bit more natural, and as you can see, it's gonna look pretty good. And it really is that simple. I think this is a great technique, especially if you find some wooden boards at the thrift store or boards you no longer want to use for food purposes, and just give it the old distressed look. Overall, I'm very happy with how this looks. This would be a perfect little tray for my coffee table, and I think it adds amazing texture to my space. Let me know your thoughts on this board. Do you like it? What would you do differently? Well, that'll do it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed these projects. Let me know which of them is your favorite. I really like the wheels. I think those are really cool in texture. I love the texture. But honestly, I really love all of them. I'm curious to know which one's your favorite. Let me know in the comments. Really quickly, a reminder that my dad's handmade apple wood live edge risers are back in stock. Last time they sold out rather quickly, but he made a couple more. The larger ones are even larger this time. Each one is handmade with love, and no two are alike. Each one's different. So I will link them in the description in case you want to go check some out for yourself. Seriously, I think they are amazing, and my dad did a really great job. Give him a congratulations in the comments. I think he'll appreciate that. And if you want to get your hands on one of my wheels, I will also link that in the description. And the reason I make a couple extra is because I know some of you really want to get your hands on some of my projects. Maybe don't have the time or capacity to make something right now. So if you want to just click and order, that's totally fine too. I make it with love. I really appreciate your support. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I have many more coming, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye.